Hey everybody, welcome to Basement Chronicles. My name is Lisa Dublin, and our topic for today is right here on the screen when leaders learn to silence what they want. And here's the truth most professionals, most leaders, they're not lazy. Okay, hang on. I've got a bit of pushback right there. I think there's something going on in the background. But here's the truth, right? Most leaders, most professionals don't lack discipline or lack strategy. They've just learned to stop saying what they want. And it has lots of repercussions in the workplace, in your personal life as well. When you stop desiring things, when you stop saying what you want out of a place of, this is who I am, this is how I want to show up. So that's our topic for today. Let's discuss. So, how are you doing wherever you're watching me from, either LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube? I think I'm also on the Basement Chronicles channel. Please go over there and subscribe to that channel as well, because that's where the podcast lives. That is where, I do all sorts of other live things here that I don't necessarily do on Facebook or even on LinkedIn in particular, because, LinkedIn is like the stoosh. Platform, right? It's very professional. So, what I try to do is to take a topic a week and to just explore it from different angles. The LinkedIn one being the professional stance. And that's where we find ourselves this morning. It is February 9th, 2026. Okay. So let's go. What about you? Do you have unaddressed, unarticulated desires, things that even in the workplace that you'd prefer not to do or you want to do, but you have just decided to, I'm going to keep my head down. I'm not going to try to rock the boat. I'm not going to do anything of the sort. These are the kinds of things that we want to talk about today because what I find, and let me give some practical examples of what I mean this morning. What are these unarticulated desires, for example, in the workplace? Taking tasks that you don't necessarily want to do out of a sense of obligation, gratitude that you even have a job, maybe even allegiance to somebody who helped you up, and now they're asking for the impossible. And you feel as if, you know what, I need to actually do this because this person helped me. It's not something you want to do. It's not something you even have the time to do. It's not in your job description or anything. Now, of course, we're not saying you just have to be the kind of person who is whatever feels good is what I want to do. Okay? This is not some paradise island. We're at work, we're living lives, and part of living life is compromise. But we're talking about us as professionals, us as individuals, living day in and day out with unfulfilled desires, with doing things we don't want to do and not doing the things that we want to do that makes sense and that could push the needle for us. So I want to start with, I always have this concept of my 5D framework of life. And for me, in the middle, it's the divine, like having that connection with my creator. And out of that comes the next four, which is desire, which is what we're talking about today. Then there is design, the audacity to ask for what you want for life from life and design life the way you want it to be, right? So that is design. Then of course there is discipline, which is like the Buckleys of all of them. It's a hard pill to swallow, but if you have discipline, you have freedom. And wherever you don't have discipline, look at it, look at your own life. I'm looking at mine right now. Wherever you don't have discipline, that is where you're perhaps in some kind of bondage, some kind of grip that you should not be in if you just had discipline to be able to regulate, to make plans and to stick to the plan. Lastly, the last one, the fifth D, is determination. Because in spite of everything that I've said, having a relationship with your creator, having red hot desire, designing life the way you want it to go, and having discipline, many times you have to dig very deep. There has to be grit and grind because things are going to come up. You are going to find obstacles in the way. At those obstacles, many people turn away and they return to their familiar. But determination says, I'm going to keep going. I will find a way to make it work. I'm going to keep it going. So that is my 5D framework for being productive and living a successful life. And so today we were looking at those unfulfilled desires. Where do desires come from? Can you trust your desires? And do you have any professional bents, things that you want to do that, maybe you have solutions for problems in the workplace and you're like, if we could only do that, then this would happen. But you keep your head down and you don't say anything. When I really think about it, I think some of the desires are God given, right? You feel a thing, you want a thing. And what I've really found is as we get older, we forget to want things badly enough. We get so disillusioned by life that we forget that we can still be the solution. We go and we live within the parameters of what is, what it looks like, what it has been for our family members, for our race, our culture, the people like us. And we're like, I'm not going to try to rock the boat. I'm not going to win anyway. And so I'm not even going to try. But I think a dangerous and exciting thought to think that really stokes desire is this. What if? What if? What if we could all live together? What if we could come together? What if we could love each other as equals? I'm just saying certain things. What if in the workplace it could really be based on merit and not how we sound and not how we look? What if it could be a place where it's truly a population or an organization or a department that bucks the trend, that is far above the norm, that is producing? What if, as a leader, you add to all of the practical things you do, you add that ability to desire more? And I think maybe that is akin to having vision. Don't get me, having vision, having a sense of what could be that you don't necessarily see right within you and around you. So that's one of the things that I want to say about desire. Here's another point about desire. I heard this from Jamal King a couple years ago. Jamal King, he's called the 95 millionaire. You can go check him out on Instagram. I'm pretty impressed with this guy. I'm pretty impressed with his discipline and how he's built his life and all of the things that he does. And one of the things that he says is that your level of elevation is determined by your level of exposure. And I think as a leader, it is very important that you expose yourself to new and better situations, people, ways of being and thinking. Because if you don't do that, you will find yourself being the big fish in the small pond, and you don't want that. You can't grow that way. You get puffed up and arrogant if you are that person, as opposed to being the leader who is hungry for more and who goes amongst the greats, the goats, to see how they live, think, read, write, eat, everything, so that you yourself can be exposed to that. And then the desire for more is going to rise up. But you can't desire what you don't know about. And many of us are so content in our little worlds. We think that's all there is to life. What about being curious? What about perhaps if you enter into a new country, a new culture, or you maybe even in the workplace that new people come in? Maybe you are the established nationality and new people come in. Might there be any merit in learning from others and asking questions the same way you expect to be asked questions? I think if we get curious, like, we will learn so much more and our lives will be so much more interesting. Let me just give a little example from when I was working in an office and just being very curious about my new culture, my new place of living, which was Canada. I joined the coffee club. I'll never forget. I joined the coffee club in my office. Now, obviously, I was accustomed to, just having like normal percolated coffee. Even I already had my plunger. I knew all of these things, right? But in the coffee club, what I realized that they did, and they actually brought in the coffee beans and they ground the coffee beans right there. There's a coffee grinder. And I was exposed to that little experience. And it might seem so normal and trivial, for people who are accustomed to this, but I wasn't accustomed to it. But because I was curious, I was like, I like coffee. Let me join the coffee club. be exposed to grinding the coffee beans and just having that it and it tastes different. Like freshly ground coffee beans taste different from if you just get coffee from even ground coffee. It tastes different. And I was exposed to that to the point where, like, now I've got my coffee grinder. Now that's how I do coffee for the most part. Grind the beans and then put them in the coffee maker or in the plunger, right? And I'm saying that this might seem like a very trivial example, but it really can be a metaphor for how being curious can give you different desires. Many of us, all we have to look at is what is around us, our own cultures, our own people, our own. You hear the same thing over and over. But what if you looked over on the other side? You looked behind, you looked in front, you looked to the side, and you're like, what are these people doing over there? Like, how is there anything I can take from there? That curiosity, I believe, is going to expose us to new ways of thinking, being, and just living life. Like, I was so just, I've always sought to have multicultural spaces wherever I go. And even my Speak with Confidence program is proven to be just that. I'm so grateful for that. To be able to bring people together around a shared goal, which for me is I'm teaching people how to speak with confidence and authenticity. That is a thing everybody needs. It's not specific to a race, a gender. No. Mm-mm. Everybody needs to learn how to speak with confidence and authenticity. And so to reframe people's minds around sitting around a table that's small and intimate, but ultimately very noble and pleasant because we are all having the shared goal of we are here to learn how to speak, how to do this better. But the underlying like ethos, I believe, is for me that we are better when we are diverse. We are better when we come together. It's more interesting. It's more exciting. You leave the room with a more layered experience of life. And here's the thing: when you have that kind of exposure, it awakens different desires in you. I know I've spent a lot of time on this second point about desire, as in the level of your exposure is going to determine your level of elevation. But I think it's very important because if you don't expose yourself to different things, you're going to end up stepping on people's toes, wanting the same things that other people want in the same small pond because you can't see beyond anybody else and what's in front of you like the next person. So go higher by being curious, right? So let's talk about a couple other ways that desire or lack thereof of like really stifling our desires, what that can do in the workplace. Now, one of my philosophies about the workplace, you guys, is this. I'm going to be spending more than 8 hours with one person. And shout out to all my Albertan friends who went back to the office on the 1st of February. You're experiencing that. After so many years at home, some people since 2020, they have now been asked to return to the workplace. That can be pretty traumatic. If you have had the last 5 years experience of working from home, settling into a routine, yes, getting the work done, but having better work-life balance, not having to commute anymore, that can be very jarring. And I'm not even sure how people are, kind of dealing with it, but I do hope they are. But here's the thing: we're going to be spending more than 8 hours together many times in the workplace. It better be pleasant. So can you imagine that in workplaces we have so many people with unfulfilled desires, so many people playing parts with others instead of looking at the workplace as a space where let me be as authentic as I can, let me be as sincere as I can so that I can get the best results for the work that has to be done. And I can also have great relationships with those that I work with. I know for many years, my like overriding thought was, let me just do this job and go at my home. Like, I don't really care. Anybody ever felt like that? Was it just me? Was it just me? I wonder, right? I really do hope not. But the thing that I know is when you take the time to declare who you are, get to know people, yes, set boundaries, and say what you mean what you say. you have more authentic relationships. And that is important. If that doesn't happen, here's what happen here's what result instead. You have, because we there's gratitude pressure. People have helped us up, and so no matter what they demand of us, we feel the need to continue giving and continue to sacrifice because they've helped us in the past, not realizing that even though you can be grateful, you can still be true to yourself. So we do things that we don't want as leaders out of loyalty, out of, I don't want to rock the boat. Has that ever happened to you? Right? And when you're silent about your needs in the workplace, in a relationship, in a friendship, even, there will be overcommitment. Let's go to the more nefarious ends of the spectrum. You know what happens when somebody feels trapped? Sometimes by their own doing. It's not that the person who you need to say no to, it's not that that person has been overbearing. It's just simply the way you're approaching them in your head. You don't think you have the option to say no, or to say wait, or to say I can't. And because you have that sense of helplessness, you are going to be resentful to the person. Have you ever seen this? I've seen it again and again. For our own lack of a backbone, of standing up for ourselves, of declaring who we are, of letting those desires have voice, because of those limitations that we set on ourselves, we become resentful to the object of our hegemony. Like we feel like those people are trying to stifle. No, it's you who doesn't want to stand up, or you don't know how to stand up. Let's face it. The minute you do that, yes, you might lose that person, but more often than not, what I have found, I want to look at it two ways. Okay, when I have declared myself, and when my desires are not what somebody thinks they're supposed to be, wanting me to do something and I can't, and if it's somebody I respect and admire who is, like bigger than I am, what I've really found is many times these people understand. You might be surprised. You here thinking that, oh, if I say I don't want to do that, this person might be upset. Listen, there are some mature people around. Many times they appreciate the pushback. They appreciate you being more authentic and honest than just going with the flow for a couple reasons. That person might simply be surrounded by a set of yes, yes people anyway, and so they appreciate somebody who can stand up. That's when you really have really great conversations and relationships, because people are being real with each other. So they will appreciate that you, in yourself, even though they know you respect them, etc., that you have come to say, hey, I can't do it. It's not what I want to do. Let's try it another way. Or maybe next time I'm going to help out. But I love you, right? They would appreciate that. The second thing is that these people themselves, okay, the ones who you think you can't say no to, they themselves say no to others. And I always take that as comfort when I have to approach maybe a mentor or someone I admire deeply or who holds authority over me. I always say to myself, if that person is who I think they are, they will understand when I declare my truth, when I say what I want and mean what I say. What about you? It's time for us to stop like hiding in the shadows. Just say what you mean what you say. It makes life more interesting. And maybe there might be a little hostility, a little like, coming up against each other, a little friction. But trust life and trust people, especially if you're coming at it with a really good heart. Like you just want to say what you mean. You might say no, but it's not coming from a place of like, I want to stick it to you or anything of the sort. Here's another thing that shows up in the workplace: when people have unfulfilled desires and don't know how to say no or negotiate difficult conversations. You know what else there is? Quiet quitting. That there was this movement a couple about 2 or 3 years ago. It was called quiet quitting. Like people, they was just simply disengaging from the workplace. They continued to get their paychecks, continued to show up at work, but they were not doing the most. They were doing only what was strictly necessary and not an inch more. And An engaged person is into the work. An engaged employee or leader, even manager, whatever, that person loves what they do. They're willing to go above and beyond. And the source of people being apathetic that way, the source of people not actually saying what they mean and that kind of thing is when they feel trapped. So as a leader, you've got to find a way to be able to release that voice for your people, to create safe spaces for them where they can speak and say what they mean and say the hard things. I remember I learned this actually from my aunts when I was growing. Well, my aunts obviously they had their kids before I had mine. Well, not obvious, but you know what I mean, right? And I learned a lot from them growing up and raising our own boys. As in my aunties always used to say that they had an open door policy for their children. And from very early we established that with our boys. As in, if you wanna say something to mommy or daddy, come grab us. It is going to be safe, it's going to be confidential. You're going to close the door, you can say whatever you want to. And they actually did this growing up. They did pull us, especially when they knew that if we found out before, they would be in trouble. So they'd be very, very quick to, come in and pull one of us aside and have a conversation that we promised and we kept, confidential because we wanted to honor them, their own bravery, courage, whatever. And I think more leaders need to be that way. You need to have an open door policy. You need to be able to have a space where it's not penalized when people speak up. It's not penalized. It's not in any way, it's not a mark against them, even when perhaps performance reviews come up and that kind of thing. You have to have a space where you can really, just simply allow people to express all of these. Hey, Crystal, express all of these desires within them. It's very, very important. So, if there is silence of desires in the workplace, then you have overcommitment, you have irritation, quiet disengagement. Another thing, very safe decisions. Now, safe decisions are great, but sometimes if you have employees who know they will not be unduly punished for taking risks, for trying new things, you get better results. Yeah, you might get some epic fails. Oh yeah. And you have to prepare for that. But at the same time, a culture that allows for expansion of thought and mind and for dialogue of decision making, that's so different from you have people heads down. I'm just going to do what the boss says. I'm not going to try to do anything different. Okay. So if you are that leader today and you're like, okay, so how do I express my own desires for the company within the workplace, the work culture, and so on? I'm getting pushback. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think it starts with you. And I always say, like, every decision and changing anything in a workplace, even in a family, you guys, there are certain similarities. It's a matter of how you market it. It's a matter of how are you coming at those kinds of decisions. Hi, how you doing? It's a matter of how you coming at those decisions and how are you presenting them. I was listening to us. I was listening to a sermon yesterday, and I was a little cheesed because this pastor was preaching, and he's like, "Well, everyone will just have to get on the program. Okay, I'm going to be changing things up a lot here, and we won't have time for dialogue. So you either just have to get with the program, or I don't know." So he said something like, and I'm like, I mean, would it have taken anything to simply market this new move towards, like, they're moving into like family worship cells, like just family gatherings as opposed to the big congregation on a Sunday? So couldn't you just say that as opposed to coming so heavy handed and not even giving people the chance, to kind of dialogue with it? A lot of us are like that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. A lot of the things that I teach and coach people on is, what is your end game? What's your end game here? If you're going to be the leader who has strategy, but the way you present it shuts people up, shuts them down, what is your end game? Is it to hear your own voice, to see your name on the policy change? Or is the end game to be able to implement a thing, get buy in, and change the culture, change the way that things are done. I remember working with a CEO one time, and his pet peeve was that people were they did their work, but they were lackadaisical in terms of getting to work on time. It had become the culture that, yeah, you walked in late because you could stay late anyway. So nobody ever bothered to, like come in on time and do those kinds of things. It was that kind of environment. And he wanted to change it. So we worked together on that little project. And what he ended up doing was calling all of the leaders and telling them, what the advantages were of people starting work on time. It was better for the company and the company's morale. And if they started on time, they could finish on time, and then you won't have to pay any overtime, right? Any of those things. And there was that level of buy-in. But because he also had an open door policy, he was able to really speak one-on-one with employees in the hallways whenever they came to him to kind of market this new way of being. Finally, at the point when he I think they installed or they reactivated the biometric, that thing at the admissions. When they reactivated it, nobody had problems. In fact, it became a thing. People were competing to see who was coming into the office on time, who was coming in first, that kind of thing, because he made it such a pleasant goal to aspire to. And that's some of the these are some of the characteristics of a leader who's giving people room to desire, giving people room to express themselves. And it's almost like a pressure cooker. Like, if you don't do that, then you're going to have that pressure in the office in terms of conflicts not being resolved, in terms of people coming up against each other for the slightest of things. So if these kinds of behaviors are symptoms of what's going on with beneath the surface in any office, in any establishment. And of course, too, because I'm so much like professional and family oriented, I'm always going to look at the two things, because I see so many similarities in how we conduct home and how we work and lead in the office. Okay, so is your desire muted? Is there strategy that is unrealized? Even as a leader, you're like, I'm not even going to touch that. Or you have people who've been in the office for a long time doing the wrong thing, and you come in as a new leader and you're like, I'm not, let them go. Let them, you're literally counting down the years until they retire instead of trying to deal with the uniformity that you want in the office, because it just seems like, where do I even start? Desire unfulfilled is going to result in the resentment, in you being too sharp, in all of the things. So my advice is, as a strategist, as a coach, is get it solved. Okay, deal with these kinds of desires and these kinds of things that we just let simmer, because they're going to rise to the surface. So right. So you guys, so anyway, I'm almost out of time. And you know what? So we start Speak with Confidence tomorrow here in Canada. Our cohort is full. Thank God for that. But we're gonna have a wait list. We're gonna do it later in the year. We're also gonna be doing a Speak with Confidence for the youth, and I'm so looking forward to it. Another thing that I'm actually planning is we might literally do Speak with Confidence in person in St. Lucia, and maybe another Caribbean island or two over the summer. So look out for that. If you are in the Caribbean and you have two choices. Like, we have the virtual one, there's still room there. We actually start next week, not this week. So if you want to join the virtual Speak with Confidence, the same 6 weeks, and the added benefit of Speak with Confidence virtual is that you get the one-on-one coaching. I cannot overestimate the value within the program of having one-on-one time with each student every week. For the 6 weeks, like, somebody signed up, she's planning to go into governmental politics, and she's going to use her 6 weeks of coaching for strategy, which I'm pretty good at as well, right? So we're gonna work on her communication strategy. So by the time she graduates, like, she's grounded in how she's gonna show up for those elections whenever they are called. So people use the one-on-one to kind of deal with their communication issues, whatever's going on within. Because starting up to speak, just free and people can see it, it doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from having thought out your issues enough to be confident in your material on stage. I swear that's what it is. Like, it's not about being perfect. All this thing I talk about, okay, what's your body like? No, there also has to be the inner game as a speaker. What do you think of your audience? How are you showing up? Are you showing up with a chip on your shoulder? Are you showing up defensive? Are you showing up with rose colored lenses and irritating the out of people? I think I do that sometimes. It's not that I'm super positive, like I'm pretty astute, right? But I think I choose to be positive and to, just be a refreshing oasis in the world. Let's put it that way. But by no means am I like, okay, everybody's on board, everybody loves this. No, not at all. But it is a way that you can appeal to the majority of people and get your message across. So if you're hearing me today and you're like, okay, I'm just hearing about speak with confidence, what is this? You can go to my website. Let me just put it in right now. And you can find out. We begin the virtual one next week. As I said, the Canada cohort is closed. We begin tomorrow. So say a prayer right there. I'm so excited. Like, it's full, it's diverse, it's beautiful. People are coming with, oh, it's gonna be, the first cohort was impressive. This one too is also impressive. So I'm so excited to take these 10 people through the Speak with Confidence curriculum and to just see the eureka moments. It's a different experience in person, and it's one I'm anxious to and excited to also bring to other parts of the world, beginning in my homeland, St. Lucia. So we're going to be doing that as well later on in the year. But if you like, I have somebody from the US, somebody else has signed up from the US, I believe. We have a couple of people from the UK who signed up for virtual as well. So that will be beginning next week. So there's still room to sign up. Go to that link and yeah, let's do it. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining me this morning on Basement Chronicles Live, the show that has been going on since 2020. Maybe I should put that like since 2020. We're still going strong. This is Basement Chronicles. I'm Lisa Dublin. Have a great week and don't forget, deal with those unfulfilled desires, you guys. Deal with them because before they get the better of you. I'll see you next week, same